Nigeria may be facing one of the biggest transparency scandals in recent years, and most Nigerians have no idea it's happening for 3 consecutive quarters. The federal government reportedly failed to publish mandatory budgetary implementation reports despite Nigerian law requiring it. No leaked documents, no political rumor, actual legal reports the government is supposed to release to the public every 3 months. And this silence raised a terrifying question. What happened when government stopped showing how the public money is spent? Every year, Nigerians hear massive budget reports, trillions allocated to roads, healthcare, education, security, agriculture, infrastructure, but after the speeches, approval and ceremonies, how do Nigerians know whether the money was actually spent correctly? This is exactly why the Fiscal Responsibility Act exists. The law was designed to force transparency, to force accountability, to force the government to explain where the public money goes. But according to the recent findings, the current administration may have ignored those obligations completely. Let's break this down carefully. Nigeria Fiscal Responsibility Act was passed in 2007. The law specifically states that the Minister of Finance, through the Budget Office, must monitor and evaluate budget implementation every quarter, and then publish the reports showing how the budget is performing. Not yearly, quarterly. That means every 3 months, Nigerians are legally supposed to see how much revenue came in, how much money was released, which ministries received funds, which projects were executed, how much debt were used, and whether government spending aligned with approved budgets. Section 50 of the Act is even more direct. It says within 30 days after each quarter ends, a summarized budget execution report must be published publicly. Meaning this is not optional, it is not a favor, it is the law. Here is where the scandal begins. Investigation reviews. The third quarter of 2025 report was never published. The fourth quarter of 2025 was also missing. And by May 2026, the first quarter report of 2026 has not been released, although the law requires it to be published before April 30. Journalists checked the Budget Office website. The last available report stopped at the second quarter of 2025. That means for almost one full fiscal year, Nigerians have had no particular question on how the federal budget is being implemented. And it is historically unusual because under the previous administrations, going back to 2010, this is reportedly the first time in Nigeria about 15 years that the Nigerian Budget Office failed to release budget implementation reports. Think about how serious that is. A government handling trillions of naira without publicly showing detailed quarterly spending performance. While some people may ask, why should ordinary Nigerians care about budget implementation reports? Because budget is not just numbers on paper, it determines the real life. When government says 500 billion for roads, 200 billion for hospitals, 300 billion for education, these reports help citizens verify whether the money was actually released, the project truly exists, contractors were paid, ministries perform, or whether funds simply disappears into bureaucracy and corruption. Without these reports, public oversight becomes weak. Citizens become blind, journalists cannot investigate properly, lawmakers struggle to monitor spending, and corruption is easier to hide because secrecy protects inefficiency and in some cases it protects theft. Transparency is one of the few tools citizens have against financial abuse in government. Once transparency disappears, accountability starts collapsing quietly. The missing reports are only part of the problem. Nigeria is now reportedly operating multiple overlapping budgets at the same time. According to the investigation, the government is simultaneously implementing part of 2024 main budget, the 2024 supplementary budget, and the 2025 budget, meaning 3 budgets are effectively running concurrently. This is extremely unusual and it may point to deeper execution failure in government finances. For example, as of April 2026, Nigeria was still busy implementing the main budget of 2025. Nigeria was still implementing the capital components budget of 2025 after extending the implementation to June 30. And this pattern has repeated itself multiple times. The 2023 budget was extended, the 2024 budget was extended, and the 2025 budget too. This suggests many projects are either delayed, underfunded, poorly managed, or not completely on schedule. And when budgets continuously overlap, tracking actual spending becomes even more difficult because funds from different fiscal years are mixing together, which creates confusion, inefficiency, and reduced accountability. The government has responded to criticism. According to the Budget Office, delay happens because of project verification process, administrative review, and transition into new fiscal framework. But critics argue that some of these reasons remove the legal obligations to publish the reports. The Fiscal Responsibility Act contains no exemption clause saying delay publication if verification is incomplete. The law still requires quarterly disclosure. And this is exactly why many analysts are worried. Because if government can selectively obey laws based on convenience, then institutions' accountability starts wavering. At its core, the controversy is about one simple principle. Should the government obey its own laws? Because the Fiscal Responsibility Act did not request miracles. It did not demand impossible reforms. It simply required the publication of budget performance reports quarterly. numbers, documents, transparency, yet those reports disappeared for 3 consecutive quarters. And until they are released, serious questions remained unanswered. Questions about spending, accountability, fiscal discipline, transparency, and institutional integrity. Because if a government refuses to obey the law that require publishing financial reports, then Nigerians have the right to ask what is happening behind closed doors. Do you think this is just administrative delay or a serious threat to transparency and accountability in Nigeria? Should there be legal penalties when the government fails to publish the implementation reports of a budget? Drop your thoughts in the comments.